And we are live. Cary Harrison with you. This is the Cary Harrison Files, a happy extension of what we do on public radio. But here, there is no FCC, so we can go deeper, better, faster, broader, and no Mildred to complain as she figured out frequency modulation, 90 yes, none of that crap. So we're going to talk a little bit today about stuff that, how do we even say it? The world is in such tormented chaos. Germany just basically brought back the Nazi party. This country is now dealing with potentially a Nazi party. It'll just look different under Project 2025. You, if your last name ends with a vowel, or if you're not a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant from England originally, you may end up in a camp. Just like that. Project 2025. It's all laid out in 900 delicious words, easy to read. Not at all easy to read. Written in a way where most people won't understand it. This is it for you. If you are not a gringo, if your family didn't come on the Mayflower, you're fucked. Yeah, I mean, you're toast. You're screwed. And you're going to find out why that is. And it's so unfortunate. It need not happen. But if one particular political party gets in power, and it's not the guy himself, it's the people backing him. It's the billionaires that have spent years crafting the new America. Well, we happen to have an expert with us today. His name is Jay Ponti. He's an author of Be the Revolution. And he's done a deep dig on everything from QAnon to, well, every permutation of perversion that's out there politically that is not in your interest as a live, upright human being, as a person with all their teeth, as a person who might like to smooch with other people on demand. Much of this will be illegal. In fact, if you've ever, even one time, looked at porn, and by the way, in Utah are many square miles of warehouses that fill nothing but your online browsing history forever, including your text messages. If you have ever even one time, you can be arrested. You can be arrested. And you probably will if you are not voting in the right party. If you've ever written anything on Facebook, unkind to whoever dear leader is, this is what we're talking about. Okay. Back to Jay Ponti. Sorry about that. I can't help it. I'm passionate. You're passionate. In fact, you are so passionate, Jay Ponti, you wrote a book.
I did. That happened. What's up, Mr. Harrison? You are in that book as well, my friend.
I am in that book. Tell me about, well, I know some people have mentioned that. What do I do in your book? Other than
Well, we did a little spicy, fun, good trouble when there was no discussion in 2016 of Secretary Clinton's, arms sales to dictatorships or creating a failed state in Libya. Those are some of the greatest hits. So we did a direct action outside of Clooney's house to raise awareness about that and the ridiculous amount of money that they were charging to get a seat at the table outside of Clooney's house. And you were really very responsible for that action getting press. And helping us pull it off. So
I wish I could roll in the video. There probably is a way. I just didn't give it to Renee, our beautiful technical director.
There is some fun footage. And what's actually cool is the book. If you actually get the book, it's the first book in history to have QR codes. So you could read the story and then you just click on the QR code and you can watch the video of Cary Harrison reporting and making some good trouble as we threw $1,000 in the air at Secretary Clinton's motorcade.
Yeah, I'll offer a little color to that. So you can imagine hundreds and hundreds of people at the house of, I won't say, but let's just say a very successful guy who owns a bunch of stores. So everyone on the block is not necessarily in the same political team. And well, George now is supporting Kamala Harris. He was supporting Hillary Clinton, which was really the only alternative to Donald Trump at the time. However, there was also Bernie Sanders, not an invisible man, seen by the people of Earth. In fact, in Europe, they were rooting for him. But in America, he was just this kind of crazy geezer. And that's the way they played him off. In fact, you'd hear a lot of newscasters refer to them as, I'm Jewish, and he reminds me of my grandfather. Okay. Now, my grandfather does not give me awful thoughts personally, but then I didn't grow up in whatever way Bernie Sanders upset me. In fact, you'll remember this, Jay. We would go to rallies in Santa Monica at a high school where there's like 16-year-olds, and these girls were flinging themselves bodily at 84-year-old Bernie Sanders. I mean, beyond rock star. And you're like,
it was like a Rolling Stone. It was like a Rolling Stones concert. I mean, there was people selling merch outside. There were lines for hours.
Well, I just want to know what a 15-year-old girl sees in grandpa. But this is good for us because someday we will be grandpa. Even though I'm not.
It's actually super relevant now because the main thing that these kids are attracted to is authenticity. So they love that it looked like he combed his hair with a balloon, like with the static from a balloon. they love that. And he was completely unfiltered. And that's relevant because that's going to be a potential vulnerability for the current nominee.
So before we invite Rory Penland in here and Renee, the conceit of this campaign was Hillary Clinton driving in the now standard Chevy, whatever the hell this fucking SUV thing is that's black that they all ride around in now. It's replaced the Land Rover. England, they still use the Land Rover for politicians. America, we use the big Chevy SUV, the Suburban, these giant Suburbans. And Hillary was inside that thing. Bernie was in one of those at one point. But she was driving by on the way to George Clooney's house for several $1,000s a plate to meet.
$33,000 a plate.
Okay. 33 grand. I mean,
and Howard Gold's family owned the 99-cent stores. So we had the 99% party 3 houses down, and we only were charging $27.
Yes, that's right. But they were charging 33 grand to, shake hands and smooch with Hillary. And so as her motorcade came by, we were throwing $1,000
in one
1,000 of $1 bills in the air, which her motorcade was forced to drive through a cloud of money falling down. Now talk about optics and talk about never wanting to talk about that, never acknowledging it happened. But we have it on video. If I can figure out a way to throw that up here, I will.
Well, it was the stupid thing of the week for like 4 days on CNN, and it was international news.
That's right.
It got a ton of press. Even George Clooney came out after the next day and went on Meet the Press and was like, whoa, we're just raising money for down ballot candidates, which of course they were funneling back into the Clinton campaign, but we won't talk about it. Anyways, we have a lot of bigger dumpster fires to talk about than ancient history, but it's a fun read, and you get to, and Cary's in it. He's part of the action at several points. And I hope people read it because it is our history. And it does also talk about the neo-fascist movement, which you were just talking about. And big Arbeit macht frei vibes happening on the opposition side.
Yes, and what's interesting about Arbeit macht frei, and for those of you who don't know what that is, and I no longer assume anyone knows anything anymore because, look at that. Oh, good for you, Renee. This is why we love her.
Well, we do have now. This is like a 10-minute video, so I don't know where we want to go.
Yeah, it probably run. Well, I think it runs 3 or 4 minutes.
That's right. You got it right.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Fire it up, honey.
All right, so it's a 10-minute video, so just let me know.
Probably so.
They're absolutely right. It is an obscene amount of money. The Sanders campaign, when they talk about it, is absolutely right. It's ridiculous that we should have this kind of money in politics. I agree.
Hillary Clinton spends the day in Southern California, but outside a fundraiser at George Clooney's house, Bernie Sanders supporters make it known.
We're in the money.
Bernie Sanders supporters shower Hillary Clinton in cold hard cash as she heads up Fryman Canyon to a celebrity-filled big money fundraiser at George and Amal Clooney's home.
I don't know if you want me to play more, but
play the whole thing.
Okay, it's
so
like
let me
10,
just,
it's 10 minutes total, but
well, to set it up again, just to set it up, if you're just joining us, this is a stunt. This is the kind of stunt that you do on radio. This is the sort of stunt you do to get attention. The idea was that Bernie Sanders was running for the people. Hillary was running for the corporations. That's why the money. It's not like you just throw money in the air and Hillary drives through it and we're never going to explain why. You got to explain why. Why is that she was at the beck and call of Goldman Sachs and every large financial organization, and really was not invested the same way Bernie was in regular people. Remember, Bernie wanted health care for all, Medicare for all, free education. Now, why would you have free education? Well, you go to Europe, they have free education. They speak 4 languages and they don't fuck up all the time. They just don't. They're smarter. They're smarter because they have education. It's not they have better DNA or higher IQ. They just have access to information, and that's all he was trying to do. So one side was supporting the old way, the status quo. The other side, Bernie, this old geezer, was supporting a new world that reflected people who had their shit together. So this video was a giant stunt where at the home of one billionaire who started the 99-cent stores, you're using his lawn, charging $27 for all the activists, and then Hillary Clinton, who's going to $33,000 a plate at George Clooney's next door, has to drive through a wall of money, making the point which this video does fully explain.
Well, money is in the air. Just 2 days before the crucial New York primary, Bernie Sanders supporters showered Hillary Clinton's motorcade with $1,001 bills.
During a campaign stop in L.A. tonight, Bernie Sanders supporters showered Clinton's motorcade with dollar bills.
This weekend, Sanders supporters showered Clinton's motorcade with dollar bills on our way to a high-dollar fundraiser, angering many Clinton supporters.
These are Bernie Sanders supporters. When Clinton's motorcade drove by, they threw money at the car.
While headed to tonight's event, her motorcade was showered with cash. Supporters of Bernie Sanders tossed dozens of dollar bills at her.
Over the weekend, his supporters mocked Clinton by tossing wads of dollar bills at her motorcade near the home of actor George Clooney, who was hosting a California fundraiser for Clinton.
When I think about the amount of money being raised at this fundraiser, the smallest ticket is $34,000 a plate.
Sanders getting his own star support as those feeling the burn celebrate his growing popularity and criticize Clinton's top dollar events.
What's happening up the Hill is just emblematic of a group of people that are just out of touch with what's really going on in this country.
Special shout out in this picture. Wearing the red sport coat is Jay Ponti, one of the greatest organizers and activists I've ever met. And to my right is Kai Ahrens, responsible for all the beautiful artwork you've seen here.
Okay, that's it.
We need to make sure that there's enough ballots.
I think that's it, Renee. It went to something else. So that was the stunt. That to say, we're now in 2024. We now have Don Trump looking to reoccupy the White House with an express plan of Project 2025, no longer a secret phrase. Everyone seems to know what it is. And with that express plan, which is going to delete most of you watching right now. You watching right now who are immigrants, whose parents might have come here a generation ago, even 2 generations ago. You are visitors under Project 2025. You will probably end up in forced labor. Now, this sounds very dramatic. It sounds almost impossible. But you know, the Germans said the same thing in the 1920s. This Hitler guy, he's crazy. He wrote Mein Kampf, but nobody would ever actually do any of that. And they sat on their ass and watched the Netflix of the day, which were called reading books. Well, here we are now. This is real. It's a published plan. You can look it up yourself. This is what we're facing. So, Jay, let's also bring in Rory Penland, who's got an expertise in human behavior, motivation. He also has an extraordinary talent in mimicking people, which means he actually understands how they think, talk, and look. And
good
Rory,
to see Jay. Bernie Sanders. Oh, that was good times. It really was. And, they made an ungodly sum of money. Yeah, I just want to say, he said wads of cash. I like that. Very much.
My favorite thing, we used to I helped Bernie bring in bands, and there was one of the bands we brought in was an amazing band called two bands called Chicano Batman and Fantastic Negrito. And my favorite thing that happened in the campaign, he's like, I'd like to thank Chicano Batman and Fantastic Negrito. It was one of the best things that happened on the campaign.
And we'd like to thank Bernie Sanders for having our band out.
Is that Batman? Is that Christian Bale's Batman?
Well, let's talk for a second about Project 2025. When you wrote Be the Revolution, this thing was probably secretly in draft form. These things take years. They don't just, you don't do 900 pages of the Third Reich overnight. It takes a lot of planning, and you have to be able to deliver on these plans. So that part has to be able to be executed too. When you were writing Be the Revolution, Jay, this stuff was actually percolating in the background. You were able to see ahead and say, you know, we don't stop it, it's going to end up somewhere like this.
Yeah, and I've been doing interviews talking about Project 2025 for about 6 months, because if you read it's out there, and this is kind of par for the course for the Heritage Foundation, which has been part of the well-resourced Koch brothers network of misinformation. And, you know, they're talking about if you read the text, you know, they're talking about criminalizing transgenderism. They're talking about criminalizing pornography. They're talking about punishing corporations for DEI. They're talking about coming for the leftists and the socialists and the communists, which can roughly mean anyone. They're talking about gutting the EPA, FEMA, and basically the deregulation of all industries that protect poor people. So those are some of the greatest hits.
Well, we've got in Project 2025, again, widely published. I would recommend you don't Google Project 2025, because you're going to get project2025.org, which is the actual propaganda piece that was written by the very Heritage Foundation that Jay is talking about. The problem with that is you're going to get the BS version. What you want is what Vanity Fair wrote about it, what The Atlantic has written about it. They distilled it down to a 10-minute read where you can really chew on the whole thing. They pulled out all the salient points, and you're not going to be like waylaid by doublespeak, which you have to be careful about. Jay is right. We're all right. You're screwed. Seriously. Even if it were theoretically Kamala who are bringing in Project 2025, it's Project 2025. Who cares whose it is? Like, do you care that Hitler wrote Mein Kampf, or is Mein Kampf the actual roadmap to what actually happened throughout all of Europe that actually took the lives of, we now know, 12 million people? 2 million were just Polish people, not even Jewish. 12 million people. Mein Kampf. Do we care that it was written by Hitler? Does it matter? It could have been written by Himmler, by Goebbels, by Mildred McCutcheon herself. It's whoever is in power that can deliver these ways of thinking. That's what we've got. And Donald Trump is a fucking master TV star. In fact, he is Ringmaster Ned. He is Mr. Ringling's big top on steroids. He is a thunderous, girthy, tumescing penis built up with so much pressure that you want to throw up. It's a
I've got the best shows, best views. I've got it all. You don't worry. But I don't know who wrote 2025. I have nothing to do with that.
It's like a mushroom
cap. Love that.
I don't know about throbbing. He's more like a mushroom cap.
I mean, they're starting to replay Howard Stern interviews where Stern said, I've done a lot of women, but you, Donald Trump, you have screwed so many women. And that's when Trump said,
talk about screwed. He really screwed mostly contractors who
yes.
he screwed out of their pay when they did his building projects.
And think of all the election workers right now, mostly women, who are all having their lives threatened and being screwed because the election workers are not political. They don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, or independent. They're just there guarding the polls, but they're all being threatened, and they're all women. Women have a bad place on earth under anything that smells like Donald Trump. And according
you know who really got screwed was the middle class when they siphoned $3.4 trillion out of our economy in 2020 and funneled it into the 1%. Now, and also like abolished the estate tax, basically, which they death tax. So no one gets screwed like the middle class under a Donald Trump presidency.
Smells like team spirit.
Sans lube
and ketchup and poo.
Plus, get ready for more right to work legislation, union busting. We got all sorts of things. But I think what's important is that we recognize that this is part of a global movement that is the result of decades of neoliberalism. And this is, you know, Trump didn't create the swamp. Heritage Foundation, they arise out of the swamp. They're opportunists. And but it's, you know, the danger is that under a Trump administration, people like myself who are organizers, who are fighting for, I don't know, a habitable planet to live on that we like, you know, that we like to live on this planet. Would be nice to have a planet, you know, with sushi and chocolate and lots of things we enjoy.
Why sushi? Why? I've never understood
chocolate sushi.
Well, there's not going to be no fish in the ocean by you know, as of 2050, we're looking at fishless oceans. I'm a lot of fun at parties, by the way.
I prefer pork sushi, but it's very hard to get
pork sushi
for obvious reasons. Chicken sushi is good too, but you got to chew like hell. It can take hours to get that goddamn thing down. It's pretty bad. And then Bobby Kennedy, who that's 2 hours of conversation there, but he's blaming.
I've known him for years. Like I've known
him for years too. I went on.
It does not sound like a Kennedy at all.
We built a cruise for Air America called the Progressive Voices Cruise. I was on a panel with him, with Rachel. She stayed Rachel, thank God, and didn't become something scary. But he has transmogrified, and he blames his dysphonia on mercury exposure. And then when you ask him, well, how did you get so much mercury? Because, I mean, unless somebody busted a thermometer up his ass, seriously, how do you get that much mercury? He said, well, it was from game fishing off of Cape Cod. And I'm like, well, that's the average man's problem. Too many sailfish, too much game fishing off of Hyannisport on your yacht.
Bobby, I mean, he's come out. He's supported our actions. He was supported Standing Rock. He's been a climate leader, you know, pretty serious climate leader. And now he's gone full facho. It's been really disappointing to see his drift to and Tulsi, you know, Tulsi.
Did you say drip or trip?
His drift into the, you know, full-throated fascism. But damn, you know, not to mention like, nope. I mean, that bear story was pretty crazy. But you know, Bobby was like, he was a great leader for us for a minute. And then I think what happened is he was never anti-vax originally. He was anti-thimerosal, which is the mercury-based preservative. But then the anti-vax wingbats just claimed him. They're like, you are our Jesus. You are our leader. And I just watched him get surrounded by these I don't know the nice way to say it. Idiots.
Well, let's delve into human psychology for a moment. Here we have a guy who did a whole lot of good for the people of Earth many years. A distinguished attorney, a professor. He is the man behind whom saving rivers and keeping them at least semi-potable falls in his domain. I got his show Ring of Fire cleared in LA, in New York on the Pacifica Network. This is a number of years ago with Mike Papantonio. And Bobby Kennedy was absolutely, for many of us, we thought on the right side. Now, what happens when you're on the, and I'm not going to say the left, it's not the left, it's just fucking common sense. Left is something entirely different. So forget the left. But he was on the side of like clean water, good education, stuff that everybody cares about. But you don't get a big fan base when you're keeping rivers clean. It's like people are like, well, you should keep them clean. Congratulations, good for you. And then they go back to life. You don't build a big fan base. And so you don't feel that important. You don't feel that loved. And some of us need that constant reinforcement. And when your last name is Kennedy, well, you walk in a room, you expect people to take a knee, baby. Take a knee and cheer. And they're not, because you're just kind of behaving. You're not doing Chappaquiddick. Well, you are. You're just not getting caught. But you're just not this famous dude like many of your relatives. And you suddenly realize during COVID, when blah, 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 we can't even say the word because the bots will give us a strike. So we're not going to say the word. But what an opportunity to jump on the anti-you-know-what bandwagon. What an opportunity to like totally go Alex Jones and build a giant fan base. And now you have one. And then you're suddenly going to endorse Donald Trump with a straight face and say he really cares. And who believes that? Well, the MAGA people believe it because they don't. Well, you're actually an expert on the MAGA people because, and I dare not say the word because we will get a strike on YouTube if we say the Q word.
Yes.
So let's just say the Q word, and then we'll do this signal for for that.
Right. Yeah, I was part of a group. There's a whole chapter on the Q people because there are a few characters we meet in the book early on that were people of intrigue in the organizing of that, and I had known those people, and one of them tried to get me into that whole psyop, basically. So I was part of a loose network of citizen journalists who tracked and mapped out the tactics and who was behind it. And so there's a whole chapter in Be the Revolution about it. I very highly encourage people to read it because it is way scarier than people realize. We came very close. You can see a direct progression from that organizing effort, which was a psyop about psyops and conspiracy theories. So I don't think you can get more meta than that. But eventually it led to, it led to the insurrection, and you can trace that. But I also in the book show how that was the swamp that arose out of also was created by the Koch network and Donors Trust and the Heritage Foundation, who
I'm going to jump in because there are going to be people who hear the Koch network and they're going to think you mean Coca-Cola.
Koch brothers, the fossil fuel barons.
This country no longer has a Walter Cronkite. Not that they know who that was, but they would look to somebody like an Anderson Cooper, who they think is, or David Muir, who never once has ever mentioned the Koch brothers. So nobody knows that name. K-O-C-H, also pronounced cock.
Yeah.
So the Koch brothers, brother, because one of them died. So there's only one Koch left, not two. And they are behind. Oh, I'm just getting deeper and deeper into this.
And we're not going to get a strike on that.
But basically, like that's they spent years waging war against objective climate science, and then this is the war on science and objective reality is what gave birth to all of these conspiracy theories, and so that created the swamp and the conditions out of which the Q people arose. And there was another important part of that, which was people like Jerome Corso, people like Alex Jones, Roger Stone were very central. These were Trump operatives who were central figures in this, who were also behind hits like Swift Boat Veterans for Cary and the Obama birther conspiracies. And what they discovered is that this is a way that they can mobilize voters who are very impressionable, don't care about policy, very radically minded, and can be coerced into, can be indoctrinated basically into the right wing because their voter base is shrinking essentially, and they can't just run on guns and theocracy. Exactly. So yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Now
so heartbreaking, man.
We're gonna pivot and go back into psychology here, because I know this is everyone's favorite part. I love the why. The what, who gives a shit? Here's what happened. Hello, John Duncan in
Tasmania.
Tasmania. Oh, so you're in the southwest part of Australia. Awesome.
He's
Warner
right.
Brothers put you on the map with the Tasmanian devil. Otherwise, none of us would know. So, John, here's what we're going to do. Jay has no idea what we're looking at here. We're looking at a picture of Bobby Kennedy, or Robert F. Kennedy Jr., along with a very gay guy who I know named Ronnie Kroll. So when I launched a show 5, 6, 7 years ago called Reality Check Live, I had the very last ever appearance of Lieutenant Uhura from Star Trek, Nichelle Nichols. She was already dealing with dementia, and it was her last appearance. We did a red carpet. It was great. This guy shows up, and he's a nice guy, and he's hot, and he shows up, but he's on every fucking picture on the red carpet with everybody. I mean, Leslie, he died recently, the little tiny actor from Tennessee.
Oh,
yes, Leslie Jordan.
Yeah,
Leslie Jordan was there. We had a bunch of fun people. Anyway, this guy, Ronnie Kroll, was pushing Bobby Kennedy before Bobby went to Trump. And it was just a little weird because Bobby was running as kind of this independent, anti, pro, whatever platform. And it was bizarre for me to imagine a gay guy like that. What is the thing? And apparently, Bobby Kennedy was having all this big pro-LGBT conversation that not a single fucking person on the planet ever heard, except for Ronnie. And so Ronnie was turning him into a big LGBT, LMNOPQ advocate. Then Bobby splits, endorses Trump, and now Ronnie is explaining how Donald Trump has done and will do more for gay people. Now, here's what we know in history. Thank you, Jay. Thank you. That's exactly the right answer. Here's what we know in history. When Stalin would ask people if they would join the party, they'd say, oh, yeah, I'll throw my mother under the fucking bus. I will cash in my daughter. You can have her double, whatever. Grab, whatever. Yes, sir. And they were the first to go. Why? Because Stalin, the Nazis, all other fascists and authoritarians know that if you're willing to throw your own brother and sister and mother and lover under the bus, you have no integrity, which means if the party is not watching you that second, you're likely out there doing something against the party and it cannot be trusted. And you're the first one with a bullet in your head. And here's this guy doing these great interviews with Bobby, and Bobby knows that he can get a hot gay guy who's going to suddenly get the whole LGBT community with their hard-ons thinking that Bobby is out there fighting for them. And it never happened. And now this gay guy is pushing for Trump. Help me understand how Donald Trump will do something for the gay community when women can't even own their own bodies. Or maybe the question better put.
Nobody has done more for the LGBTQ PS community than I have and any other president.
So
I mean, I guess it's like a Milo Yiannopoulos situation.
There you go. There you go.
Nothing. That's the best I got. What I can't wrap my head around though is how somebody who is a climate leader shows up to the rallies, is out front as a climate leader, can endorse a man who hired Rex fucking Tillerson, the CEO of Exxon, to head the EPA. And it's like, it says climate change is a hoax, as a Chinese hoax. And the cognitive dissonance is absolutely astonishing.
Yeah, this is why the Chinese have changed all of their taxis to electric vehicles, and now all their buses are hybrid. Because it's a hoax.
Well,
I got nothing, man. But Bobby, what are you doing, dude? What are you doing?
Well, we know what he's doing. That's the thing is, it's not, he's confused. He's brilliant. And this gay guy is brilliant too. This gay guy is going to try to get MAGA followers. Now, do the MAGA people want the gay guy to actually succeed? No. If nobody's looking, will they shoot him? Yes. Will they also want to fuck him in the ass? Yes. Will they ever want to tell anybody? No. So it's kind of a perfect bit of weird alchemy. But it just goes to show that if you're willing to like do deals with the devil for your own personal good fortune, what do you call that? Because I can't think of a single gay guy I can't think of a single straight guy who would put his daughter in a hotel room alone with Donald Trump for more than 7.3 hours.
I think it just goes to show that, none of these groups are monoliths. Like Black people aren't a monolith. LGBTQIA folks are not a monolith. Every group's got idiots.
Well, yes, but getting back to turncoating, getting back to being a fucking turncoat, a Benedict Arnold. You're a gay guy who, okay, you love Bobby Kennedy because he's talking to you and he's a Kennedy, and you're suddenly going to get 1 million hits on your Instagram. I get it. But then you take Bobby, who has become a turncoat himself, gone over to the Trump camp, and you follow him over. Now you're selling Donald Trump. Like, what is that?
Well, I mean, I do have a theory that unless, Ron, you want to take that one, Rory?
What now? I was just going to say it sounds too much like Benedict Cumberbatch, Benedict Kennedy.
Yeah. Well, what I do, one thing
Dr.
I have
Strange is not.
Well, because I've seen this with Tulsi Gabbard, who I've known. I helped bring her to Standing Rock. I've known Bobby since 2014. Been to his house, and we've had a pretty good friendship. But I think part of it is driven by the deep resentment for having been targeted. So they did, there has been a fair amount of hatchet jobs in his run up to, he was running as a Democrat for a while. But as these people did go against the Democratic corporate establishment, they did get a lot of flack. And I think the deep resentment has driven that behavior. Now I can't wrap my head around how someone could get that far gone and have that much cognitive dissonance to go over to a side that is clearly neo-fascist, that is against everything as human beings that we stand for a sustainable planet, and for working class people. I can't wrap my head around that, but I can see from an inside perspective how that resentment has led to really like distorted worldviews. And
so
I think
let's bring in the great Renee Yaworski, who has a keen legal mind, probably because she is a lawyer, among the many myriad talents that she possesses. Talents. But I want to plumb your mind, Renee, just a little bit on the life expectancy. I don't mean technical life expectancy, but let's just say social life expectancy of such a bold turncoat, such a Benedict Arnold, who would turn on his own people and go and support the guy who's going to clobber them with Project 2025, which lists with specificity that the LGBT will become no more. Like, how does that work in the legal thing? Like, in your history of watching human behavior, what kind of people are likely to do that?
Well, first of all, Bobby Kennedy Jr. has been really honest about a lot of his, now I don't know him personally, you guys do, but he's been really upfront about his 14 years of being an addict, about struggling with addiction, mental health concerns, emotional health concerns. He's called himself somebody who put himself first and was very selfish for a great deal of his life. I mean, so that's one of the things that he's kind of banking on, is that he talks very openly about a lot of his quote unquote perfections or peccadillos or whatever. But here's the problem, is that he was kind of a niche guy. I think Jay was talking about how at a certain point he kind of became the messiah for the anti-you-know-what crowd. I don't want to get, we get blocked on YouTube if we say certain words, but that's very true. And a lot of people sort of, believe in him because he's a Kennedy. They believe in him because they loved his father. They believe in him because he really was, like Jay said, a leader for a very long period of time where people trusted him to be taking us in a direction where he wasn't really in one particular box, but people felt they could trust him because he was being open and honest about his struggles and things like that. Him going and sort of, and I thought it was interesting when he came and he gave that press conference, was it about a week ago or so, when he said that he was going to back Trump and be this unity party. You could tell his entire body just was deflated. He looked depressed. He knew he was betraying a great deal of people who believed, if they didn't agree with him on anything else, they felt that he was a person of honor and somebody who would stand up for what he believed in. And when he did that, and he basically almost said it, he said, look, the thing that drove me to this point is the Democratic Party left me. They're suing me. I mean, he kind of just said he was doing it to screw the Democratic Party, but he didn't really believe in Trump. And he keeps saying over and over again, I don't agree with Trump on things, but we have to be this unity party. And I'm telling you, if you look at the comments on his social media, and if you look at what people are saying, it's kind of what Jay and Cary are talking about tonight. It's disappointing. He kind of self-sabotaged and he knew it. And I feel this was like a kamikaze pilot sort of thing. And that's how he's couching it. He's not proud of it, but he sort of, I think he fell on the sword and in a dishonorable way. And that's how many of his supporters are viewing it. So we kind of, I don't know if we can go back from this point. So many people have been dismayed by his decision. I'm not sure that he can get it back. But no, it's a short lifespan for someone who takes the people who believe in them and think they're an honorable person and then just sort of turncoats, like you said. I can't imagine what it's going to take for people to really believe in him again.
And isn't it a beautiful piece of branding non-genius, calling Trump the unity party?
Right.
I mean, seriously. You're a woman, Renee. You're a live, bona fide female. That you are. So
yes,
how
sir.
unified do you feel with Donald Trump and his ideals toward what he thinks your life should look like?
Right. I mean, he hasn't grabbed my you-know-what yet, but but I haven't given him the chance. Yeah, I mean, it's like the Howard Stern thing, and I remember
Let me
that
in the room.
I find it interesting.
In the room.
Remember last week we talked about a prediction that I made.
Yes.
And I'm thinking maybe it's changed. But again, what happened with the Democratic Party and him? And then you throw him a bone. You give him, say, look, if you come and join us and come over this side of the fence, we're going to give you. And I said last week, I think that they're going to dump J.D. Vance and they're going to make Kennedy the vice president nominee.
At the very least, they probably offered cabinet positions.
But yeah, now I'm thinking maybe just a high cabinet position. What's the third in command?
Secretary of State.
The Secretary of State, maybe that position. So he would be number 3.
Or Gabbard, although women of color tend to not do well in that camp. So,
So that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking they just get, he's the greatest con man the world has ever known. He gave him an offer he couldn't refuse. And there it is. He was looking for a home. Somebody accept me, take me. And there it is, I think.
I think you're right. I think that's exactly what it is you go where the love is, you go where the cash is, you go where the people are, where the fans are. And it used to be in the world that you actually wanted quality fans. I think we can probably kill off that video, Renee. It's just kind of turning my stomach at this point. I have such a problem with gay guys selling out like that. You know,
I do have to
suddenly
say that I don't know if you guys could see on the screen, but Ronnie, he called that in big bold letters, that interview, Bobby Curious.
Oh, Jesus.
So that's how he's billing it. So he's leveraging the LGBTQ thing to say now Bobby is Bobby Curious and we're Bobby Curious. And there's this big happy marriage between LGBTQ and Trump and RFK Jr. Yeah, he's leveraging that heavily.
I'm curious. What I'm curious about is how he could talk about dumping a dead baby bear in Central Park and think that that was going to be a. He's like, hey, try to spin that one.
Like, he did the baby bear. They need to exhume the bear.
And I say this as someone who, like, also, like, I have genuinely really cared about and respected him as a person, but at a certain point, it's like, I just can't anymore. But I did go to one of his, just to visit. They did a comedy show fundraiser, and the entire show, to be honest, was, Rob Schneider and people doing, anti-trans humor. Was pretty, it was pretty bad. So I think this drift has been coming, but I think it's there is we're in such an attention economy, and narcissism has just pervaded, our entire society. And so I think people get addicted to this like a drug. They get addicted to the attention. They get addicted to being relevant, and they'll do it's like, I think they follow it like a drug. And I think once they get hooked, they just, and I think that's one of the reasons why Trump became president.
Well, there's no doubt it's pure charisma. And like I said, he is exactly a carnival barker. He is a carnival barker, period. And if you remember or studied or even are mildly aware of how circuses work, you have a carnival barker yelling, hurry, hurry, come on, the bearded lady, the lobster boy. And it was P.T.
Come see
Barnum.
the dead baby bear.
Yes. P.T. Barnum was the one who famously, and I'm going to paraphrase, I don't remember the exact words, but basically said, do not underestimate the stupidity of the American public, and made a fortune banking on that. And he discovered this because people simply wouldn't leave the circus at 10 p.m. when it closed. And they were selling beer there. So who wants to leave with nickel beers? You can stand there all night and have a great time. Yes, these working class people had to be at work the next morning, but you're like in a circus. Like, how much fun is this? Getting wasted, maybe a few fun fist fights, maybe grabbing a little, whatever. It is a circus. It's good, clean fun.
This is the canary in the coal mine for Democrats, though, because you have the same cadre of useless consultants that told Secretary Clinton, I don't know, don't campaign in Michigan or Wisconsin, basically trying to do politics as usual when people are suffering. And Donald Trump is absolute. I mean, I think I read that it was something like 30,000 documented lies. He's completely full of shit, but what he does is he speaks in an unfiltered way that gives, and he knows his base and he talks to them, where the Democrats, their go-to tactic is to convince everybody that everything's fine and Biden economy is great when people are working 2 jobs and they can't put food on the table. So I think that the authenticity is definitely something that the Democratic nominee needs to look at, and also visit her stance on Gaza, because I think this is also an issue that is going to potentially lose.
She can't revisit it. She cannot revisit it. And here's why. So a friend of mine worked for the DOD. The federal government has an arm of accountants that are not part of the military, but they are part of the military. They're sort of black ops, and they go around and they cut checks for whatever skirmish, war, whatever we're in. So most of us never think about, like, if we're invading somewhere, all those troops have to eat. That means 6 months before the war even starts, there have to be food tents. You have to know what is the food. You have to have purchased the food. You have to have contracts with the vendors. Every bullet has to be shipped in, every vest, the Velcro, the zippers, every air conditioning pipe, every piece of PVC, every sheet of toilet paper. Now you're starting to get the picture. We're talking like miles and miles of Walmarts and Costco's just to have a war. There's a huge back end. And this guy's job was to go in and start handing out cash to participants of the war. They may not be on our side, but they all love the money and buy and curry their favors. All that to say, what is Israel? It is not a country. Sure, invented out of thin air in 1947 by the British, used to be all Palestine. Poof, today, your section is now called Israel. Everyone has to move out. Have a nice day. But it's not really anything. It is nothing more than a giant U.S. military base. In fact, he said it is the largest weapons cache in the Middle East, surrounded by hostiles. Nobody likes us around Israel. Nobody likes Israel. We store more tanks, at least 150 multi-tipped thermonuclear weapons. Ours are sitting there in Israel. Our tanks, our jeeps, our bullets, whatever we do to dispatch to the Middle East, all sitting in Israel. So what are we really doing when we put in $6 to $7 billion? This is pre-Gaza, $6 to $7 billion a year. We're just paying our military base as if it's Puerto Rico or Hawaii or one of, Guam or somewhere, a U.S. protectorate. It's a military base. She is not going to step back 1 inch, not 1 inch, because she simply
this could cause her
cannot.
the election, because there's an entire generation of people who this is their Vietnam. And, I think we are grossly underestimating, because what happens is we get corralled into social media echo chambers. So if your friends are liberals, your friends are Democrats, everyone's going joy, joy, joy. You have a distorted perception of what the rest of the country is feeling. And the people who should be the most passionate people on the left, who you would want as allies, have now become opposition. And this is disastrous. And you're going to risk losing an entire generation over an immoral genocide that this administration has been funding. And Kamala Harris needs to distance herself from it. She needs to take a strong position on it and say that we are committed to ending the genocide. Otherwise, this is one of the reasons we're going on the road and going on tour across the country to do trainings for these activists, because I believe, Vice President Harris her negative net favorables were something like negative 16 or 17 a month ago. Biden was down 20 points from 2020 with the 18 to 29 demographic. This is really bad. And what happens is the real numbers don't come out until late September, early October. There's another story in my book of me telling this to the Clinton campaign, that the Democratic Platform Committee, I told them to their face they were going to lose because they were trying to take another bullshit corporate middle of the road position. Well, Donald Trump is taking the most radical, extreme right-wing positions possible and winning. And the Democrats think that they can do business as usual, and it's not going to work. And I hope I'm wrong. I really, really hope I'm wrong. But I fear when November comes around, I hope and pray that we are not in for another rude awakening when we have, Orange Hitler back, which, is going to be a death knell for the human race.
And let's be mindful that it's not a free and fair election. Not the way Donald Trump makes that claim, but the amount of gerrymandering, which is where you take a piece of pizza and the slices are actually different sizes. And the bigger slices happen to be the white people, and the tiny slices happen to be the black people, and the bigger slices get more votes because you are able legally in the United States to make pies that look like that or pizzas that look like that. That is just one. Under President Trump, his Postmaster General, who runs, for those of you overseas, we have a mail or postal department, probably similar to yours. We have one guy overseeing that. He put in a guy named Louis DeJoy, who had physically removed 10,000 mailboxes, plucked from areas that inhabited people of color, Asians, people that were likely to vote for Democrats. Their mailboxes were pulled out of the ground. Now, why would you do that? Because you Europeans,
the same reason it's the same reason Elon Musk is pushing this voter ID bullshit, which, you know, potentially so there's 454.
Well, let me answer the question. Let me answer the question, because a European isn't going to get why. So why would you pull mailboxes? What does that have to do with anything? So in America, some states allow voting by mail. Now, why would you do that? Well, let's answer that question. In America, you get to vote on one day. That's it. Tuesday. That's it. Well, why would you have people vote on a Tuesday when you could have them vote on a Saturday when they don't have to work? That's why you have them vote on a Tuesday, because working people generally vote for labor parties. And the Labor Party, in a sense, would be the Democratic Party. So you make sure they can't take the day off, because in America, if you walk off the job or leave to go vote, they view it as walking off the job, which means you just permanently quit your job. And in America, you don't have any cushion. If you quit your job, you have no money. And maybe you're now living on the sidewalk 1 week later, eating cat food until that tin dries out. And then you're just fucked. And this is the fact of the way our system is set up. Even though my ancestors who wrote the Declaration of Independence, my ancestors who framed the Constitution in the spirit of that, did not intend any of this. But this is how it's turned out. So by pulling mailboxes, you are removing people's opportunity to vote by mail so that they don't, on the day of election, have to leave work and get fired for doing so. You've just pulled out 10,000 mailboxes. Each mailbox is maybe equivalent to 5,000 people. Do the math. You are just plus so many new votes for the other party.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's fucking genius. This is Machiavelli on steroids.
Well, it gets worse if you followed Greg Palast, who's done amazing reporting on Chris Kobach's campaign to strike basically anybody who, mostly people of color, has the same last name as someone who is a felon. So let's say your name was Juan Gonzalez, and let's just say Juan Gonzalez had been a felon and couldn't vote, right? So what they did is they challenged anyone named Juan Gonzalez in some of these states. I can't remember the name of the campaign, but Greg Palast also has another
caging.
Right. It was something. So they challenged it, but now what they're doing is other voter suppression tactics. There are armed people, like armed MAGA people, are posting up at polling places. But to answer, your previous quote, Chris Rock once said, his quote, I think it was something like, "They don't want you to vote. If they did, we wouldn't vote on a Tuesday in November. You ever throw a party on Tuesday? No, because no one would come." But they're going to be added again, escalating. And Elon Musk is pushing these voter ID tropes, which in a sense will disenfranchise potentially 25 million people. There have been only 454 documented cases of voter fraud in 2020 out of 158 million votes cast. That's 0.0003%.
And a lot of them were done by the very party that is claiming it's a problem.
Right,
by
exactly.
Planting, yes.
Not an issue.
And it's a 5,000 degree fine, a $5,000 fine, and a giant felony. So you're cooked for the rest of your life if you try to pull that off. And let's talk for a minute just about voter ID. Again, most people are not up to speed on what in the fuck we're talking about. What's wrong with a voter ID? What a great idea. I feel safe. That's not what it's about. So let's say Juan Gonzalez needs to go get a voter ID in order to vote. Now, the Constitution does not say that he has to prove a damn thing. It is a right in the United States, not a privilege. The voter ID makes it a privilege. But for him to go get an ID on a Tuesday when he has to work means he has to once again quit his job and then go down to the DMV and get a voter ID. Oh, you don't have an appointment, Juan. We're sorry. You can come back in 3 months and wait in line again. And so it's not only impossible. Oh, Juan, by the way, you may have to drive 50 or 60 miles to whatever registered place that actually does these imprinted federally approved state mandated voter IDs. These are also going to probably be the real ID you use to fly on an airplane. So maybe Juan has to drive to the closest airport, which could be he has to take a plane. It may be that close. He has to fly to that airport. So that's going to cost him $800 or $900. I think you get the point. He's not going to vote. Success. Mission accomplished. Elon Musk, you go, baby.
Yeah, well, mostly it's going to disadvantage older people of color, BIPOC voters. And, you know, if you are an unhoused person, this presumes that you don't have a right.
What if you're a dishoused person?
Right. Well, you know, how many people were dishoused in the 2008
we're going to do another show just on euphemisms because I fucking hate them. I hate the language. I hate all of it. I think every time you diminish and throw water on it and dilute it, it becomes less clear and you can manipulate people even better. Just call it what it is. If it's a fart, it's a fart, or a gaseous borborygm. You could be elegant, but be accurate.
Yes, borborygm is much clearer.
I think so too.
I just want to hear Jay do his Chris Rock impersonation again. That was good. I like it.
God, I don't know if I should, but ultimately, like, what it comes down to is bullshit. So it is, as John Stewart called it, bullshit mountain. So they come up with non-issues like critical race theory, trans people are coming after your kids, you know, because conservatives are, it's not that all conservative people are stupid, but stupid people tend to be conservative. What the science does show is that they are more easily manipulated by fear because they operate more out of a caveman brain. So, but on the other side, this is important because people who are, you know, you might say progressive or liberal or independent aren't as much motivated by fear. So that means the Democrats need to campaign on a fucking policy platform that people can get excited about, not just I'm not Trump and whatever you know, hot dog Tim Waltz is eating at a carnival. So yeah.
Do you think liberals or conservatives are better lovers?
I mean, I don't know. It's because I feel like the conservatives are straight up freaks. You know, I feel like the freak energy,
fetish. Yeah.
I think that they're, I mean, look, they crashed at the RNC.
They were the Nazi
They crashed
outfits.
Grindr app. Like they crashed Grindr at the you know.
Let's explain what that is for our straight friends.
Well,
it's only fair. I it's just my radio training. It's like people don't,
go
you
for
know,
it, man. That's
you got to help them. So Grindr is the gay version of Tinder. And actually it predates every single dating app, all of them. First one ever. And the guy named Joel Simkai in West Hollywood who invented Grindr came up with a technology that he patented and made him so fucking rich. It's amazing. That's that GPS technology where you can tell if someone's 8.7 feet away in the same bar, because by God, you'd never talk to them using your voice or anything, or shake them with a sweaty hand. So instead, you just pull them up on the app. There they are. And then you like each other until the magic happens. That's called Grindr.
Did you ever come across Mike Pence's profile on there?
Not yet, but I haven't looked because I have good taste. So what Jay is saying is that during these Republican conventions, Grindr crashes, the gay app. We don't know why. Google published, not meaning to be controversial, but they published the most searched words during the Republican National Convention, and it was gay bar.
The Blue Oyster Club.
ATM, and they weren't looking for a cash machine.
So there. Yes. So what a well
journey.
I think we're coming to actually what a perfect way to start rolling credits. We are exactly at that time. We have covered so much territory today. We've covered frenulums, we've covered toadstool penises, Hillary Clinton, same thing in a different dress. We have covered pretty much everything today. So if you were ever wondering why and how it works, you have just listened to this as a podcast and all your questions will be answered. I know, Rory, you have no questions.
I just want to say we're going to help the LGBTQ community. We're going to grab them by everything, all your body parts.
Can you imagine how rough that would be to get all that like spray tan on you?
There's a picture floating around of a woman actually doing that to him, and he's naked, and they've got his privates, blocked out. But it's just disgusting.
Must look like Tammy Faye Baker's pillow.
Somebody snapped a phone image during one of those.
Okay. So it makes sense, and I think Renee would agree with this. I'm not speaking for womankind here, and I wouldn't dare even for a tenth of a second. But I think just knowing Renee, who's smart and prescient, that this is probably true. Somebody, a woman, must have told him, "You're hot. Like when you put on that spray tan, you just light me up." Otherwise, why? What guy is going to think about that? It's like a straight man. I think I'll put on some eyeliner. I don't think it generally is in the thought pattern, but somebody has to tell him you're hot. Oh,
he must look like a ghoul underneath all that spray tan.
The thing that he does, that he spins it around. It's a comb over, but he has to spin it around.
Yeah, but somebody had to tell him. Yeah. I mean, he goes to a hairdresser. Somebody had to. I mean, was it Bruce that said, "Oh, Don, this is fucking hot. This like this orange wave thing." I mean, like I can barely stay behind my chair
underneath all that orange. Do you imagine how pasty he must look under? You can see around you can see the whiteness. Like that would be him. That white splotch.
Yeah, the pink under the eyes.
Like a reverse raccoon.
So he does say that he is the most handsome man who's ever lived. He's also got the body of an 18-year-old.
Of course.
Which explains to me the recent assassination attempt. If it had been anybody. Well, this is logistics here. So you have a body of an 18-year-old. It's the only way to explain this. If Joe Biden had been shot at, Secret Service guys who are all, former Navy SEALs and whatever, it's not like you're a layabout cop, retired and laid off. You're the Secret Service guy. Oh, no. You go through more training. It is brutal. You swear oaths. You don't fuck around. After Abe Lincoln was
they sent their 18.
Oh, they sent the right team, all right. They did send the right team. So Joe Biden had been shot at. He would have been knocked down and completely covered by these guys. That's their job, to die to protect the former president, period. No, you don't debate it. You don't even think about it.
And he's out of there. They got him in a, they're driving him off.
I don't care how much Joe Biden struggles. Now, Donald Trump, who weighs what, 250? Probably?
No.
More? Okay.
No. Way more 300 probably. Yeah.
How much?
No way.
He's like 6 foot, so yeah.
No way. No, he's
300.
He's got to be 300 pounds.
Okay. Yeah. 300, which is 150 kilos for our friends in Australia. He's a big boy. He
does not. He weighs 300 pounds and he
hold me up so I can fist bump.
So here you've got a 300-pound man who's going to be the oldest human ever to run for president. Now that Biden's gone, Donald Trump will be the oldest human ever to run for a U.S. president. So you have an 83. Is he 83? 82?
78, right?
78.
Yeah.
So you have a 78-year-old man who weighs 300 pounds, who's been knocked down to the floor but he's got the body of an 18-year-old. So he can pull himself up from like 6 Secret Service guys and rise like a giant walrus up into the air in front of a flag and pump his fist. Meanwhile, these Navy SEALs, with all their muscle, they can't hold down an 18-year-old because he's just too strong. Now, look at Donald Trump in his golf pants. You've all seen the pictures in his golf pants, right? Where he's squeezed into these white, almost translucent golf pants. You can see all the ripples of his large curd cottage cheese ass. You can see almost count the hairs on his thighs. It's vile and sweaty. Okay. So he falls down on the golf course. Time it. How long does it take him to get up on his own? Waddling around, going around in little circles, trying to push himself up with one fat arm.
I can't get up.
Yeah. How long does it actually take him to get up? A minute? 2 minutes? 3 minutes? So how can you have a monkey pile of soldiers on top of you and shoot straight up like a rocket unless you have the body of an 18-year-old? Therefore, his Beverly Hills physician was not lying.
Well, him having the body of an 18-year-old, we do know that he's been to Epstein Island, so.
Yeah, that's where I feel he's gotten the body of an 18-year-old, maybe a 16-year-old.
Or less.
But we know what he really wants. If you see the old footage of him talking about his daughter, god damn. Yeah. The cognitive dissonance on the right is crazy.
She's so hot.
They're like, no,
if she wasn't my daughter, I'd be banging her.
Him laughing with Jeffrey Epstein, like they're best friends. Like they're like, no, that's actually what the chapter on the Q people talks about quite a lot, in the book. The capacity for cognitive dissonance is remarkable. But I think what's crazy about that whole assassination attempt is how quickly we moved past it. Did it take that long? And I hope this interview does not get me a fucking knock on the door from Secret Service. But think about it. This would be really big news for a long time in other circumstances. And I think there was a kind of a collective I don't think it was.
Wow, that ear healed fast.
But people were like, I think people were surprised that it took that long.
Well, and there's
1 week
nothing.
With a tampon on his ear, and man, it just healed like
Did
that.
you see the Republican National Convention?
About it.
Did you see people put taping gauze
pads?
Pads.
Yeah, thousands of
$49.99 at the front gate, folks. Trump ear pads. You buy 15 pads, we're gonna give you a piece of the coat that I wore when I was shot.
Oh my god, the worst was there was a meme circulating around that was the picture of the Indian guy going like this. It was everybody's collective thought was you had one job. I'm not advocating this. I don't agree.
No.
I don't agree with any of this.
No.
The opinions of the guests are not reflected.
Yeah. No. Clearly not.
To be clear,
this is
our
really
theory of change is nonviolence, but I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
But that ear did heal fast.
It's not like everyone didn't think it.
Yeah, we're just exploring forensics here.
And he wasn't a dermatologist. He was playing golf. Come on.
Because if my grandmother had fallen like that and been monkey piled, wrangling her out of there, it would have taken a long time at that age.
Yeah, no,
I'm just saying.
Normally, they
raise me up higher. I got to get the flag in the background.
Give me my shoe. Where's my shoe?
Well, I think this is a beautiful moment to close. Again, we have covered all the important things of the day and explained. Oh, I'm just reading. What does that say? Cottage cheese.
You like the cottage cheese line.
Thank you. Now my therapist and I will not have something other than mom to talk about this week.
See, I find that ironic because people eat cottage cheese, so they don't have cottage cheese ass. You know what I'm saying? It makes no sense.
We provided a great service. You can do a half-hour session with your therapist, save some money, as can everyone else who's watched this. I want to thank everybody. We've run way over time, but this has been such a joy. I haven't laughed like this in a while. Actually, we laughed like this last week, didn't we, Rory?
A little bit.
At the end, at the very end, untaped.
Yeah, I actually laugh usually before and after show more than we do during the show. Renee's always like, save it for the show.
But this has been good. I want to thank you. I'm just reading. I shouldn't read and talk. It's too hard. It's too fucking hard for me.
I have that problem all the time. I like to wing
hold
it.
the book up, Jay.
So yeah, this is it. This is the book, Be the Revolution: How Occupy Wall Street and the Bernie Sanders Movement Reshaped American Politics. That's what Cornel West had to say about it. Pretty good.
You have to help people know who Cornel West is, because
Dr. Cornel West, great writer, also running as an independent candidate, not an endorsement, but he is a hero of mine for sure, and a great man. Wrote Race Matters and was also in The Matrix, in the second Matrix movie.
Right.
But the book you can actually download a free chapter at betherevolution.us/home. You can download a free bonus chapter called Why Trump Won, which is an autopsy of the 2016 election, and you can purchase the book there as well.
For anybody who feels irritated by me forcing everyone to explain references, it's quite simple. This is not MSNBC. We don't all know who the cast is. We don't know the references. Most people are just regular people. They watch Netflix. They go to work. They screw their dog or finger, whatever they do.
Screw the dead bear.
Who are we broadcasting to?
Yes.
Are we on the dark web?
Just like a Kennedy's, you know.
Are we on 4chan right now?
Maybe. I don't know. I hope not. But that's why we break down references, because it's not an inside conversation, although it's totally inside. And hopefully through context, you understood just a little bit of it. I want to thank you, Jay Ponti, for coming on. Thank you for taking the time to write this book. And thank you for talking about the stuff we talked about today. I mean, we found a fun way to talk about Project 2025, to talk about the plan ahead. Rory, thank you so much for adding so much color and dignity to this conversation.
Be the revolution, Jay. Be the revolution, Cinderella boy.
Is that Bill Murray? Is that like
it's a Caddyshack reference?
It's a pond or a pool. A pond or a pool. Yeah, I got a
lunga.
Gunga lagunga.
And the great Renee Yaworsky,
without thank you.
Nothing can exist.
But
so let's all get on bended knee in front of the goddess right now. There we go. Okay.
But if I'm telling you, if you don't read this book, you cannot understand what actually has happened in America in the last 12 years, because this history has been erased by the mainstream. It is the secret history of the grassroots and the underground, from Occupy Wall Street through the rebirth of American labor. So I really encourage, if people want to understand how this shit show in America is actually happening, like this is like, if you didn't know about weapons of mass destruction and George Bush, you wouldn't really understand like how the world you live in. It's the same thing with this book.
Are you talking about G.W. Bush?
Yeah, remember when he got a shoe thrown at him? That was great.
Yeah,
remember
I dodged that sucker. I'll tell you right now. He tried to throw both of them at me.
Like,
well, okay.
What was that quote?
Thank you, guys. We have gone beautifully over time.
Families was where our nation finds hope, where wings take dream. George W. Bush.
Yes.
That's a real quote.
And where
Jay's
you
next
could
book,
always
There's a Sucker Born Every Minute, is coming out soon.
And don't forget to put food on your family.
Nope. You're into that.
All right, you guys. Thank you so much. We are going to now sign off. Don't forget, you can get this podcast everywhere. Anything with a chip and a signal. Share it freely. Share it whorishly.
Including
and just know that we could never get away with even 1/10 of this on broadcast radio, which is why it's not on broadcast radio. So I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. And thank you once again.